My name is Elaine Mercer, and until recently, I believed I had weathered every kind of storm motherhood could throw at me. I was wrong. Nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the tidal wave that hit when my only daughter, Lena, spiraled into a world of manipulation, emotional chaos, and a stranger who has more control over her than anyone should. Lena came out to me at 17 as non-binary, though she said it depended on the day. Some days she felt like a girl, other days like neither. I did my best to respect whatever she told me, even when I didn't fully understand. I didn't push back, I didn't lecture, I just tried to be there. But around that time, something in her behavior began to shift. Her emotions seemed sharper, her reactions more chaotic, and her friendships concerning. 2 years later, she walked into the kitchen one afternoon and, for reasons I still cannot comprehend, shouted that she was 4 months pregnant and that it was my fault. I froze. "Your fault," she screamed, "because you never supported me getting hormone blockers. You ruined everything." I stared at her, stunned into silence. And then she said something even stranger, something that chilled me. She said she saw the baby as closer to a sibling than a child, and that I was supposed to raise it. That my refusal to fully support her identity was the reason she was in this situation. That was the moment something inside me hardened, not against her, but against the chaos swallowing her thoughts. I said, "Congratulations, Lena. You're going to be a parent, but I will not raise your child for you." She didn't say a word. Instead, she ran to her room, locked the door, and stayed inside for 12 hours, wailing loud enough that it echoed through the walls. I sat downstairs that night, shaking. Not angry, not even sad, just terrified for her. Around 3 in the morning, she stormed downstairs with a half-packed duffel bag. She said she was going to stay with a friend, someone I had long suspected was the father. Before leaving, she told me she had already called the police to inform them she was leaving freely, so I wouldn't report her as a runaway. She was 19. It broke me that she thought I'd even consider that. I told her she could come back any time she had a plan for how she would raise the baby. She slammed the door behind her, and suddenly the house felt too quiet. Lena and the father wanted to talk, so we met at I Hope restaurant. His name is Jasper, someone who had been part of Lena's friend group since high school. He's transgender and had always been unpredictable. But what mattered wasn't his identity, it was his behavior. Since they were teenagers, Jasper had made wildly inappropriate jokes, often pushing boundaries for shock value. At 17, he once followed me into the kitchen, making obscene gestures, laughing like it was the funniest thing in the world. I kicked him out that day. So imagine this sinking feeling in my stomach when I walked into IHOPE and saw him sitting beside my daughter, already glaring at me. As soon as I sat down, Jasper went on the attack. He claimed I poisoned Lena by helping her get birth control, even though Lena had asked for it herself. He said I ruined her by not supporting medical transition, despite Lena never expressing interest at the time. He insisted I was a monster for refusing to raise their baby, adding that Lena couldn't possibly parent in her current emotional condition. The whole time, Lena nodded along silently, her eyes flat and distant. Jasper slammed his fist on the table more than once. Even the server avoided us. When I asked why Jasper couldn't take care of the baby, he said his parents were worse than me and that he was homeless. Convenient. I repeated that adoption was the best option if they weren't prepared. They threatened that if I didn't agree to raise the baby, I'd never meet the child again. I walked out shaking. My daughter stayed seated beside Jasper, like a soldier beside her commanding officer. 2 weeks later, I returned from grocery shopping and found a pregnant woman standing at my door. It took me several long seconds to recognize her. It was Lena, but not Lena. Her face was gaunt, aged, covered in small tattoos. Her hair was matted, her clothes smelled of smoke and dirt. She talked constantly, in rapid, endless streams, so fast I couldn't keep up. None of it connected. She'd been living in a homeless encampment that Jasper called a community. a group of people who believed they were creating a new generation, free from societal expectations. Jasper was the center of the group, like a wheel, and the others were spokes. She claimed they were building a new culture, that several men and women were chosen to carry the next wave of people, and that gender had no meaning in the new world. She said they communicated emotions through another realm. She didn't mention the baby once. I let her shower, fed her, and tried desperately to find the daughter I knew under the erratic speeches and nonstop talking. But she was distant, floating in some fantasy world created by Jasper and that encampment. I realized then she was not well, and she was not safe. One night she went into labor. Her water hadn't broken, but she was in pain, so I rushed her to the hospital. That's when everything collapsed. It turned out she had never been to a single prenatal appointment, despite what she had told me. That alone put her at high risk. When the nurses tried helping her, she turned vicious, screaming insults so hateful I couldn't believe they were coming from my child. The staff stayed calm, compassionate, saints, truly. I pulled a nurse aside and quietly explained where she had been and what I suspected. They took it seriously. Her blood work came back clean. No substances, just chaos in her mind. She refused to let me in the delivery room. A few hours later, the baby was born, a healthy little boy, miraculously unharmed. And then Lena did the unthinkable. She left. She walked out of the hospital without saying goodbye to me or seeing her newborn again. Because the hospital was a safe surrender location, she would not face charges. I stayed behind for hours, talking to social workers, giving them Jasper's information, explaining everything I could. The baby was placed into foster care that same night. I cried the entire way home. Lena disappeared back into the encampment the next day. I'm blocked again. The worst part? She talked openly about the next baby, as if she was just a vessel for this bizarre community Jasper controls. I know she's mentally unwell and deeply manipulated. I know she's being controlled, but she's also an adult making devastating choices. She treated hospital staff like they were beneath her, treated me like a tool, treated her baby like a mission rather than a human soul. I haven't written her off forever, but I have finally accepted that I cannot save her by sacrificing myself. I've started looking into moving because I live with the fear that one day she will show up with that entire group behind her. I hope she gets help. I pray she finds her way back to me. But until then, all I can do is set boundaries and hope her child grows up far away from the chaos that nearly swallowed my daughter whole.